Recently, I made a video talking about Meghan Markle's hypocrisy in posting her and her children's lives to social media so frequently while simultaneously desiring to be seen as a voice for the campaign against social media and for increased social media safety for youth specifically. She and Harry do a lot of work and have tried to build a reputation as advocates for online safety, protection for children, and kind of against social media policies because they are not doing enough to protect kids, basically. And she also simultaneously uses social media prolifically and has posted her children so much. She put out a statement not that long ago trying to defend herself, and I dismantled that statement and poked all the holes in it in this video that I will link for you here. But Bethany Flynn disagreed. She said, "I think this not allowing photos of your children in public is way overblown. It's basically paranoia, helicoptering on a whole other level. For goodness sake, it's ridiculous." I disagree with Bethany Flynn completely, and I disagree with this sort of position completely. Helicopter parenting and keeping your kids off social media are two very different things. Helicopter parenting is rooted in preventing your child from having any negative experiences at all and controlling their experiences to the extent that they don't get to develop normal resiliency to things like falling down or dangers or failing at something. And it gets to the point at which then their risk tolerance or their risk assessment abilities are low and their distress tolerance is almost non-existent. That is very, very different from actual privacy. It's about managing data and tracking and corporate exposure and saving that part of a child's identity for themselves, because the way the world is now, ever since I was a child, is that you have your real life and then you have a digital life, and whatever you do in terms of social media and profiles and just emails and programs you sign up for, services and subscriptions that you have, all of these things are connected to your digital profile and your digital footprint. Absolutely everything now. And so if you stay off social media as an adult, that's beneficial to you in terms of your own personal privacy. And whatever you do choose to put into the digital sphere via social media specifically in particular, or like professional profiles, things of that nature, never goes away. It's there forever and ever. And so if you start posting pictures and information on your children when they are youths, then by the time they get to adulthood, they don't have that right to choose if they want to remain fully anonymous online, if they want to keep their pictures offline. They don't get to choose that for themselves. And there's the other risks of possible exploitation or inappropriate use of the photographs during childhood that I just viscerally feel we should not be allowing to happen. People should not be putting pictures out online because it's just breadcrumbs for the creeps. Basically, that's how I view it anyway, personally, from a personal point of view. There's just no good reason, in my opinion, to put breadcrumbs out there for a creep. Like, there's just that. The scales don't tip in favor of, I'm going to post the pictures anyway. To me, that's just like something I have zero tolerance for, is the concept or idea of somebody taking a picture of a child and changing the context or, using it in inappropriate ways or doing things with it. That's just something that I feel like very, very strongly is on the parents to prevent and not do. And it's just something that I feel aggressively protective over personally. And I think it's weird for people to not have that same point of view. And the whole, well, it's the person viewing it in that way who's wrong. Yes, duh, they are wrong, but that doesn't mean we should still enable them and think that somebody who's that twisted already is going to suddenly have a change of heart just because you're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because they're the ones who have a problem. That's not going to change their mind. That's not going to stop them from being creeps, okay? So it's on the parents to call keeping your kids off social media or to be against what the social media world calls sharenting, where you share your parenting experiences and journey, including your children's images or videos in that sharing of your parenting experiences, is just a conflation of terms. It is not the same as helicopter parenting at all. Helicopter parenting is rooted in controlling the child's world, hovering over homework, micromanaging friendships, not letting a teenager walk to a park by themselves. It's about preventing them from having full autonomy in their physical world and presence. Whereas digital privacy and opposing sharenting is all about preventing external entities, whether that's random strangers, tech companies, or data brokers, from exploiting or documenting a child who is too young to consent and who you are responsible for protecting. A helicopter parent is not letting their kid take any risks or really experience a normal childhood because they're trying to shield them from the realities of the real world. Keeping a child's images and videos and information off social media is nowhere near the same because that is the digital space. It is not the real world. It is not essential to life. That's the other thing that a few people took issue with when I said social media is not a requirement of daily life. Therefore, Meghan's analogy of we needed seatbelts didn't land because traveling in a car or a vehicle is a part of daily life. It is required for almost everybody. I mean, not everybody is required to travel in a car, but most human beings throughout their life have had multiple occasions, if not daily occasions, in which the only option was to travel in a vehicle, in a car. And so seatbelts were a public health thing. A lot of kids can't get to school. A lot of adults can't get to work without a car, especially in certain countries and certain places in the world. Not everything is in walking distance anymore. We are not living in villages anymore. We live in cities. We live in huge, sprawling areas. Plus, people like to travel. Medical appointments also, like a lot of times, especially if you need some specialized care, the only way to get there is through a vehicle. So seatbelts required, yes, because traveling in a car is very much required part of daily life for a lot of people, for most people, I would argue. Social media is a choice. It is not necessary. It is not essential. But some people took issue with that and said, well, a lot of people have their job on social media. They are adults. They are choosing that. They are consenting to that. So it's not the same thing. And some people said, well, now in the professional world, you kind of need profiles. Those are still adults. Those are still people who are choosing to consent and have a better ability of consent than children. And nobody is making that choice for them. So keeping a kid off social media simply is not shielding them from the real world the way a helicopter parent is. It's shielding them from having a pure, permanent, uncurated digital footprint created for them before they even know what that is. You're not stopping your child from living a normal life by not letting them go on social media. You're just letting them decide how they want to present themselves to the world when they are old enough to choose that and old enough to understand the longevity of the impact of what you do online. Even I would argue even 18-year-olds are not yet capable of that fully. Because, your frontal lobe isn't done cooking until you're like at least 24 to 26 years old. Furthermore, I don't think it's paranoid either, because paranoia is an irrational fear of an imaginary threat or something extraordinarily unlikely to happen or a situation that is improbable. But children's pictures and videos in the interwebs are at risk for creeps. They just are. That is not an imaginary risk. They are documented. And there is also documented systemic corporate practices involving monitoring kids, keeping track of them, for data harvesting and things of that nature. which also leads to additional risks of like identity theft or phishing scams. Digital data for yourself and your kids should be treated with the same type of caution that you use for physical security and for financial security. It's not anxiety, it's risk management, and it is essential in my opinion. And I don't expect like people in an older generation to fully grasp this, but I feel like a lot of people my age have already had some sketchy run-ins with stuff online in terms of their data or in terms of like pictures being taken out of context. I think a lot of people have already had these types of problems happening, at least people in like my generation have, but social media is not that old. So like I feel like there is just a little bit of a gap in understanding, which is why I decided to talk about it today. Because now we know that data scraping is an automated certainty, not a risk. It happens every single time you post something online. 100% of the things that you post online are subject to data scraping. The moment a photo is uploaded to a public or even semi-private platforms, ones in which you allegedly get to control who it's shared with, the data is scraped by brokers and AI companies to train models. By keeping your photos offline and your children's photos offline, you're preventing an automated system from mapping your child's face, tracking their age progression, pairing their biometric data with their name and location before they're even old enough to understand what any of that is. I feel like that is kind of a basic responsibility for parents. Financial institutions and cybersecurity firms also routinely issue warnings about sharenting. It's the practice of parents oversharing their kids' lives online. Barclays Bank ran a widely cited study predicting that by 2030, sharenting will account for 7.4 million incidents of online fraud per year, costing billions of dollars. A lot of like standard, seemingly innocent posts like saying, "Happy 5th birthday to my son, so-and-so," posted on a specific day, gives data companies, bad actors, creeps, the name, possibly the location, the exact birth date, family names, all these things we actually use to help protect our data online. When you sign up for certain accounts, they're like, "What's your mother's maiden name?" Well, now that security question is completely useless once people start putting this much information online. Cybersecurity experts call this a synthetic identity theft, which allows scammers to essentially take out like lines of credit in your child's name even before they're of age, because they get so much information from online and are able to build additional online profiles and expand the online footprint fraudulently. The big thing that tips the scales, in my opinion, that's really hard to argue is just the fact that like if I saw a creep in real life looking at my family, I would become confrontational immediately in order to protect them and shame that person. Online, unfortunately, we don't get the chance to shame the weirdos and the creeps, but we can not allow them to look. And that's the bottom line, in my opinion. And I think it's also important to remember that like a social media post is for the parent. It's the parent's vanity that's benefiting. It's not the kid necessarily. And I don't think it's a good message for us to be sending to our kids to be posting our lives on social media anyway, whether that's our lives or our family's lives. And I know sometimes people are like, "Well, I want my son or my child to see how much everybody is proud of him or thinks that his accomplishments are great, or look at this awesome thing that my daughter did. I'm so proud of her." But that is ultimately teaching and developing a trait in our children that they should be seeking validation from social media, digital spaces, people that they don't necessarily know, or just through online means. That's a valid way to get personal validation and harvest confidence or things of that nature, which is the wrong way to go about it, the wrong message, and it's not true confidence anyway. It teaches them that that is a healthy form of validation when we do that and we model that for them or we involve them in it. And it's not a healthy form of validation at all. So it's really, really kind of a muddy message anyway, a muddy practice anyway, when it comes to like psychological child development and well-being also, because our kids learn through observation. And if they're seeing us post everything about them as a means of boasting how proud we are of them, and we're all the more delighted to see how many people have liked it and to share it with strangers on the internet, regardless of the risks, that's a crappy message to be sending on top of it. And that's really where my opinion of Meghan Markle's practice comes from. It's not just about the security and the creeps and those undeniable risks and the long-term implication for the children involved. It's also, what sort of example are you setting for your kids, and where are you teaching them to feel a sense of belonging and validation? Are you teaching them to find that from within and through healthy interpersonal relationships in the real world? Or are you teaching them that they can find it in their phones? The very thing that we're telling them they shouldn't be on all the time. What do you guys think? A little bit of a different video today. Let me know your opinion in the comments. I will see you soon. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.